Would you like to introduce our wonderful guests?
Yes, welcome back everyone, new season and everything, season 4. We started off with the bang. We've got DavieMoo, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's DavieMoo, and I really need help to get out of the country because everything's going crazy. I don't want to be here anymore. I'm really sorry, I can't do it. Oh. And then sometimes I write blogs and stuff.
That's an amazing intro. I write blogs and stuff. I love that. Can you show you?
It's succinct.
Can we see that cat again? Because that's a pretty cool. I like that. I've not seen that before. That's a kitty cat.
Look at that.
That's a kitty cat you don't mess with.
That is a cool cat.
And speaking of kitty cats, SuperTan, would you like to introduce yourself? And your cat behind you.
At the moment. Well, I just make videos and tweet about politics with increasing levels of exasperation, rage, profanity, and incredulity. So,
and you're a huge fan of the Tories.
where I'm just like,
I have a question based on your videos. Have you ever actually just added up the number? Have you tried to hit a record in terms of the number of swear words related to the government actions in one video in 60 seconds?
Like, I think I did once challenge someone to do a shot every time I said "but." Oh, I can't say it, can I? I nearly did it.
With free speech, as long as you don't bring up court cases and you don't threaten to do something really, really horrible to someone.
Oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, the amount of times I say "fuck." That's there you go. There's your first one of the video. But no, I haven't. I don't dare to. It just kind of just comes out of me. I'm not day to day. I don't swear that much. I don't think. Do I, Davey? You're in a group chat with me.
No, not at all.
David's reception is
clean
now
mannered.
disappearing. My excellent co-host Max.
Hi everyone,
Please
my name is Max.
introduce
I run the Robespierre channel. And I talk about British politics and Brexit in particular, which we're going to cover today, I'm sure. Alex, tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name's Alex, also known as Political X. I run my own YouTube channel. I'm an author, I'm a historian, political thingamabob, and might soon be officially a journalist. But unofficially YouTuber, so you're sort of a journalist anyway, aren't you? I'm gonna ask. I've got something to ask Max. Max, because of all the political videos you've been doing this week, have you been able to keep up with the crazy crap that's been coming out?
No, so I have a video today on Nadine Zohari, but then there was also Boris Johnson receiving £800,000. There's calls for him to face questioning in the House of Commons. So there's that. Then there was also Nigel Farage. I don't know if you guys saw Nigel Farage tweeted about how there's so many people from the City of London moving to Italy post-Brexit.
Really?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Look at all the problems I caused.
No, it's the Tories' fault. It's the Tories' fault.
Yeah. He said it was the Tories' fault. He blamed the Tories. And you're just like, wow.
So
You're just
so
total narcissist, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's the type of
Done
man.
wrong.
He's the type of man that would piss his own trousers and sue everyone. Honestly, he's absolutely stupid.
So no, I can't keep up.
No, it's nuts, isn't it?
Never
I mean, Davey, you just brought that up with Nigel Farage and the immigration and the brain drain, which I've been reporting about for about 2 years. Basically, we're going to go into competition with the EU, and they've got some major advantages. Housing's cheaper, better social systems, it seems, but also better weather, and for a large part, and I hate to say this, a lot of their fruit and veg does have nicer taste than what we have over in the UK. Not always. I love our beef tomatoes. I think they're very tasty in the UK. But other than that, I mean, you're in direct competition, and they're burning all the EU laws, or they're trying to burn all the EU laws and legislation, including like holidays. I assume that wouldn't include minimum wage. I think that's a UK thing. But overall, we're going to have a brain drain. And it was just amazing to see Farage come out and go, it's the Tories' fault. And you're like, we've already been in competition. We were well punching above our weight. We had loads of Italians coming over, and apparently they're all moving back. Italy's having an economic boom at the moment. And apparently Milan, has anyone been to Milan?
Yes. Well, yes.
I wish. No, I'd love to.
Definitely go and check it out. It's a beautiful city, and it's having an economic boom. In part, they're blaming Brexit, also a big housing project they've just set up in the south of the city, which they've renovated this set of old areas, brownfield sites, and try to make it really beautiful. I mean, the architecture is stunning, but Let's go to Tan, because we haven't heard from you in a bit. Tan, what are your thoughts on the brain drain? I know we're going to talk about all sorts today.
Well, to be fair, I think we've got one in Britain, like, generally speaking. Anyway, when you were saying that, it was just making me think about how much I'm just wondering if, like, Milan will take me in. Like, frankly, I want to leave the country. I think a lot of people feel like they want to leave the country. Did you see that poll on Twitter about how many people would take an EU passport if offered one? Like, it was like 95, like tens of thousands of people responded to it. It was like 95% of people would take an EU passport or something like that. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, the problem is, like, it's hard to look at it through the sphere of how every single political system or every single service in our country is absolutely screwed. So it's hard to kind of think about, I think, it from that perspective, because you've just got myriad problems all feeding into it, and Brexit has just come in and just thrown a bomb on them. So it's just a mess. And yeah, I mean, I just can't believe what you said about Farage blaming the Tories when he advocated for this. It's just like, what?
Well, I think this is part of his, reform UK approach, because he wants them to he wants the Tories to move further to the right.
Differentiate between the two piles of shite. Yeah. It's impossible, because they facilitated each other's con job, didn't they? So it's.
But just on that, I don't know if did anyone see Isabel Oakeshott, who's the partner of Richard Tice, talking about food banks and talking about nurses using food banks?
Again?
Oh, is this the thing when she was saying, like, anyone who's on over £30,000 and is using a food bank? And it's like, gee, Isabel, I'm no scientist, but, when rent goes up and the cost of living affects the bills that we pay, and the council tax goes up because the government won't fund the councils that are Labour run, and when national goods go up everywhere, suddenly it's like you can't afford things, Isabel. It's the way that it's spun by Oakeshott, and I can't remember who the other person who was saying this the other day was. Lee Anderson, yeah. Oh, that absolutely. I'm trying so hard to wind him up. But they're trying to make out that we're, like, fiscally irresponsible. Yes. And the fact of the matter is, we haven't done anything to increase our expenditures. Expenditures have increased around us, and salaries don't move with the times. So you look at these people and you go, the fiscal irresponsibility was Liz Truss taking a fucking machine gun to the heart of the entire economy. We haven't done anything to bring these extra charges on ourselves, but we're being blamed for them. And there's so many people in the British public that don't look at people saying these things and go, it's not my fault everything's more expensive. It's bizarre.
It's
Max,
exasperating.
Would you take, I mean, I assume because of the special legislation between the UK and Ireland, but if you had a choice, Max, and you've already got the choice, would you take a EU passport or a UK passport?
Obviously,
let's go to Bermuda.
Yes, EU passport, because you have, in the past the UK passport was one of the best in the world, but now it's unfortunately one of the worst in the world, because you've less access to so many parts of Europe. I just want to ask, in the comments somebody was saying that there's air conditioning on. Fortunately, my computer is going crazy and the fan is running, so apologies if you're hearing a lot of feedback from, or sounds
air
like
conditioning. They're not talking about the fact that Parliament have given themselves air filtration then, but not schools or hospitals. They're not talking about that, no.
How much is it going to cost to renovate Parliament? 15 billion pounds.
And who wants to keep them alive? I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, you know what I mean? Sod the kids. Let's keep the corrupt politicians free of SARS. It's just. But it's all over and it's all fine and it's totally safe. They're just conditioning the shit out of their air. It's fine.
This is actually a really good time for me to say, because I'm about to do it. If I do have to keep muting myself because I'm coughing, it's because I got infected with COVID in November and I've still got a cough from it. That non-dangerous thing that we're talking about.
Haven't you, Davey? But it's fine. It's mild. It's mild.
So you've all brought up great points. There's so many things to break down from that.
There are so many things to talk about. Honestly, this week has just been like every day.
Charlie boy, I'm not calling him the K word. He's the nice K word, not the K word you're thinking of, Tan.
The misspelling. Of a
I'm not
popular
calling him
duo.
the K word because I didn't vote for him, so that's the end of that. Charlie Boy has just announced that they're going to do a big pomp ceremony throughout London. I'm going, you guys, you do that. I've seen that happen in history before. That doesn't work out well. Lee Anderson tweeted about his 30k a year worker, which, oh wow, look at Max's face.
Which it took 2 minutes for Twitter to find out was actually like, you know, super rich. Even though it wasn't her fault, he should never have used her like that. I mean, it was creepy.
But also, I had another question. I'm sorry, and maybe you guys can respond to it. Like, can you imagine he's her boss? Can you imagine your boss comes around and says, "Can I take a photo of you to post it on social media to piss off people I don't like?" And
I would go absolutely spare if someone did that to me.
But also for her, she wants to further her career, so she probably felt pressure to say, "Yes, Lee, please do that."
Power imbalance, massive power imbalance, and he's exploiting her. I mean, her personal outgoings all over Twitter.
Has she said anything?
I don't know, but how could she though? Because if she wants to keep her job, or she doesn't want to get sacked, but apparently, and then it came out that his staff turnover is massive, and it's like, well, I wonder why. A, you're an absolute bellend. B, you do this kind of stuff, Lee. I mean,
so we've got that. We also had. Did anyone see what came out from the Treasury?
Oh God, what?
From the Chancellor,
what could it be?
Mr. Hunt. Oh, he did this little short video which like completely broke down. Yeah, go on, Max. What did you see this?
For my last live stream, Matt Green did a wonderful response video to it. Matt Green, the comedian.
He's a leg.
Yeah, with the cops. So I do recommend checking that out if you get to see it.
I've got embarrassed Max here because he did something really sweet, which caught me off guard. Mr. Beast was tweeting. Do you all know who Mr. Beast is? Mm. So he's a YouTuber in the States. He's absolutely massive, and he'll probably run for president in the next 10 years.
100 million subscribers or something.
And Max said, "It's the question from Mr. Beast was, who's your favorite YouTuber?" And Max nominated me. I went straight back and did the same. But I was like, "Yeah." Oh, no, that's not it. That's how old I am. Yeah, Tan, you know. Our partners don't, but you know.
You guys, you're in love. It's fine. We get it.
We're not denying it either.
You can't deny it. It's impossible. It's impossible.
But going back onto the point, what did Matt Green say about it, Max? What were your thoughts on the video? Like, it was great. We're flipping between so many different topics.
The video was really corny, but it was like a comedy. Like it was as if he was taking the piss. Like it was a comedy sketch, but you're like, this is serious. And you're seeing a lot of these from the Tories at the minute, like with Rishi Sunak as well, where he's really excited about something, and it's really weird to watch. But the Matt Green one, the Matt Green one was very he put in Brexit and he put in austerity, and then he had the barista spitting in the cup and putting in garlic and everything. So, but we do check it out.
It seems to be a big thing, like you said. Like I remember there was the one, I can't remember which one it was. There was a female Tory MP at Christmas who was like, "Oh, you can save 5s or 10s on your Christmas bill by ironing your wrapping paper." And I was like, "Oh, that could not be a sad bastard, actually." Then there was what was the other one? Oh, it was Grant Shapps did a TikTok where he was like walking around his house flicking the lights off all cheekily, and so I was like, I'm sorry, is this advice coming from Grant Shapps, or is it coming from what was the alias that he used for his consultancy?
Well, there's three, isn't there? There's
Michael Green.
Yeah,
Michael Green, and then Corinne Stockheath. I was like, is this advice coming from you or Corinne?
No. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, what next? I mean, it's like post-apocalyptic. It's like how to eat rats to keep alive. Shoot a squirrel with a catapult. It's just like, fucking, how dystopian do you... And why aren't people pissed off about this? Why aren't they just like occupying and I don't mean occupying in the American January the 6th sense, but just standing. You know, I mean, why are people so angry that they're just, you know, I just don't get it. I feel like what's the word? Envy for people that don't know about any of this. Envy.
Wow.
Like it's like you're lucky.
Ignorance is bliss, as they say.
Well,
Just stick your head in the hole and wait 10 years, and it'll all be fine.
After 2 years of being up to your eyes in it, you kind of think, well, it'd be quite nice to be really thick, actually, or unaware, you know.
Did you see Jodie? I think it's the comedian Jodie Holt. I think it is, or Rosie Holt.
Rosie Holt.
Rosie Holt, the legendary Rosie Holt.
In her video, she's a stand-up comedian. She did a piss take, and basically she got a plate and said, "You can lick all the crumbs off the plate." And get nutrients off it.
She's so good, man. I love her. She's really cool.
Yeah.
Really great satire. Like her and Julian Rubinstein are like up there as like my favourites really. There's another fella that does it on Twitter too, Sebastian something, I can't remember. I keep calling everyone Sebastian Payne today. What's wrong with me? There's not enough coffee.
Who's everyone? It's 10. Who have you seen at 10 a.m? You're like walking around your house calling your cat Sebastian.
I don't know what's wrong. This is what happens when you make me get up this early on a Sunday. Like I've told you, my brain doesn't work in the morning. Just doesn't
Sebastian,
work.
get off the bookcase.
We want this angry.
Hang on, Sebastian is behind.
He looks like a Sebastian.
Honestly.
That then leads on to something in general, which is focus on the big things, which seems to be a message that's coming out of the government. Don't pay attention to the seatbelt. Don't pay attention to Zahawi doing... Do you know what? Just on a... Are we going to talk about... I think we've got... No, this will be part of the Zahawi thing. Al Capone got nicked for 11 years for 250,000. And Zahawi's, what is it? 3 million?
4.8 million.
4 point something else, yeah. Including fines, I think.
If you pull that stuff off with HMRC, that means you've deliberately, if they're finding you that level, you've deliberately broken the law.
Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, they'll bring charge. Well, for most people, they'd bring, I think, charges if it was found. I think a lawyer explained this loosely to me. There has to be evidence, or they have to prove that you deliberately evaded them. So he's pulling the whole, I accidentally evaded 4 point something million in taxes twice.
It can happen to anyone. Have some sympathy. It can happen to anyone.
Oh God, yeah. I mean,
anyone with 27 million.
I often just misplace a couple of fucking £1 million.
How many times have you looked down the back of your sofa and found a few grand?
Exactly. It's like
practically every week at this point.
It's like they're living in a live-action version of Monopoly. It's mental.
So I just want to interrupt for a second. I just want to inform the chat that we are actually live, okay? Because some people are asking, is this live or is it a recording? No, we're live.
We're live.
We're live.
Yes, we are live.
That's why I've got a cat on my head and I can't do anything about it. That's the truth. But talking about money, what about the BBC chairman? Sorry, I'm just leading you on.
No. Go ahead.
Boris Johnson, taking, what was it, 800 grand?
800,000. 800 million. 800,000.
And then magically, Richard Sharp got a job. There's no conflict of interest. No conflict of interest whatsoever. He just paid off Johnson and then got the job. It's,
That's bad enough. This is bad enough, right? But bear in mind that on the BBC this morning, Rachel Johnson talking about this. Yeah. And as usual, with a ridiculous fringe going, I don't think he can take me. Like, how is she a political commentator anyway? It's like someone sticks the cheapest fucking, like, shake and go from Wish on Boris Johnson, tapes him up, and then sticks him in a chair. But the fact that she's on the channel where the nepotism has happened, defending the nepotism of the channel of her brother, I'm like,
she's like on LBC too. She's like, it's an LBC. As soon as someone mentions Boris Johnson, she's like, and she immediately steers them away from ever bringing him up, even if it's about him, like, or any criticism of him.
I genuinely imagine, like, one day someone's going to ring in, like, broken from the roadside, like, hello, I've just been hit by Boris Johnson, and she'll be like, "Isn't his car lovely?" Like, she's just fucking useless. She doesn't do anything of note except she is the shield to her brother's like broken, wrangled sword that's just currently like ripping off the necks of the people. It's ridiculous. I
They
hate the
get
woman
Stanley
so
Johnson
much.
in too. They get
Oh my
Stanley
God.
Johnson in, the guy who was openly Islamophobic on the night of the election coverage, who was allegedly responsible for domestic abuse towards Johnson's mother, allegedly. And yeah, let's just wheel out that fluffy
And
belly.
then to go back to someone we mentioned earlier, Isabel Oakeshott, who basically was like, "Oh yeah, he's really touchy and creepy, but it's okay because he's old." And I'm like,
Whoa.
every time you tell a lie, your fringe gets bigger. And at this point, I'm actually afraid for the structural integrity of your own neck, you like Farrah Fawcett-looking moron.
Yeah,
Honestly,
this is-
she like.
Dave, you kill me. I'm sorry. I can't. I'm gonna have to
There's
stop
something
using
about it's like the way that Oakeshott does report. To get serious for a second, the way that Oakeshott does reporting is like it's like Darvo, but like state sponsored. She every time I see her on anything, someone will be like, "Look, here's a big graph about structural wealth inequality that's massively grown over the last 7 years in particular," and she'll be like, "All these people wanting better conditions for doing the same thing. They just need to work harder." And I'm like, you are wealthy as fuck. You don't know what it's like. You bitch about people not going into London on a day when there's strikes. You talk about people being lazy working from home. You're a columnist. Like, it's the rank hypocrisy. And I don't understand how it is that people like her or people like, what's the other one that drives me crazy? Julia Hartley-Brewer. Because these people engage in the highest form of hypocrisy and they are paid to say the nasty stuff that makes people go, "Ooh, yeah, sod the foreigners." And it's like, all it takes is a slightly shifting. You're the one in the spotlight to these people, and they don't give a shit about the peripheral, the splash damage that they do by saying all the nasty crap that they say.
They're just cultural spinners, aren't they? They're just
I've got to bring in 2 points here. So it's really interesting. You just told us that that's happening right now, where she's on the BBC defending him, and he's clearly done something really dodgy at minimum with all of the loans. Do you know they did the same with Alan Dershowitz? Do you know who Alan Dershowitz is? He was accused of sexual assault on the Epstein Island, and they got him on to critique Virginia Giuffre.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, why have you got him on as if he's like an independent legal witness to describe what's going on with Virginia Giuffre? And he had a huge chip on his shoulder. I think there's someone's just dug up another court case on him on the Epstein Island. And apparently one of the supermodels who were taken to the island has now claimed she's got the video footage of people. Yeah, I know. There's so much going on. We cannot cover it. We had to do a special. This is our plug. We had to do a special in Brazil, which is one of the first specials we're going to do.
cool.
So we're trying to do specials around the world, and it's a 30-minute special with a friend of ours who's a Brazilian economist, talking about what's happened over there. We haven't, when we were talking about what to talk about, we didn't even mention Braverman having the gall to take on the Holocaust survivor and say that her language is as appropriate. Is appropriate when the Holocaust denier is saying that language is the same language he used. I then heard on LBC, we're totally segueing here, but this is the point. None of us could keep up. The Holocaust survivor said you're using the language. Braverman said, no, it's fine for me to use that language. I then heard James O'Brien, pretty much the only person on mainstream media, bring it up that I saw. I didn't see a special on GMB News. GB News, never see that. GMB News. Or the BBC. I didn't see anything on there. I could be mistaken. Someone claimed there was. I asked him if there's a clip. Didn't see it.
No.
But I was fuming, and a bloke rang up LBC and said, that isn't Hitler language, swarm and invasion. It's in Mein Kampf. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's in Mein Kampf. Yeah. And he literally says a swarm of foreigners, and then he uses the same word to define Jews. And you're like, what the hell is up with the UK population's education? How have we actually got people who don't realise this? We've got massive problems. Sorry, Davey.
This language though is genuinely being normalised, and I can't even make a joke about this.
Nope.
There was a rally, an anti-trans rally in, I think it was Newcastle last weekend, and one of the gender-critical speakers literally quoted, unironically, from Mein Kampf as a positive for why people should believe in the gender-critical movement. And this is why all of this is so dangerous. But if we want to look specifically at the Braverman issue, she said, "Oh well, me doing this isn't gonna do anything bad." That's funny, Suella, because I remember at the start of December when two people firebombed a migrant processing centre, almost like when you say that migrants are swarms and invasions, suddenly people start using violence against them. The effect has happened before the fucking cause when the Holocaust survivor confronts her with this language. And we are constantly told, just to do a quick example from my own experience, we are constantly told by all of the extremists in America who use this kind of rhetoric against the LGBT plus community that it's fine for them to do it because nothing happens. And then something like a shooting happens in a club, and we're told that they're allowed to say these things because freedom of speech. But if freedom of speech leads to things like firebombings or shootings, then it's not freedom of speech. It's literally softcore promotion of terrorism, and that's what we're dealing with in the UK, which is being normalised by someone in the top chair of the Home Office.
Yeah,
and also who doesn't know safe routes into the country.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. It's dehumanizing. But one of the most shockingly dystopian parts of it for me was the fact that the actual Home Office Twitter pressured the people that took the video of it to take it down and to remove the video.
A charity,
and that is North Korea style, like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I heard that, and my first response is, where are all the free speech people? You know, all these people who are banging on about free speech. The was it Free Speech Society run by that young guy? Where are all these people? Where is Peter? Where's Peter Hitchens? Peter Hitchens, you know, a champion of free speech. Why isn't he complaining about this? No, because it suits them.
Exactly. And it's divisive, and it encourages hate, and it encourages othering of those groups of people and disdain, and removes any sympathy for them as human beings. So it benefits them, doesn't it?
I just want to say, sorry, in the chat, Phil says it was the audience, it was the applause of the audience that got me. So yeah, it wasn't just her saying
God, it. Yeah, because it was actually like, wasn't it a constituency meeting or something?
Yeah.
It was actually, yeah.
And they applauded.
So she knew that
it's very dangerous. Sorry, go ahead, Tan. Perhaps.
Oh no, I was just going to say, did you want to quickly just talk about the hotel situation that we talked about earlier on? Did you want me to discuss what's going on?
I was just going to bring up one
Oh no, go for it.
history fact, and then we'll go straight into that.
No, we need your facts.
Yeah, sorry.
No, we need them.
You'll hear, so when Hitler was on the rise in Weimar Germany, it had some of the most liberal free speech legislation. That's what you'll generally hear. It also had anti-hate speech legislation. There were two problems with this. It wasn't enforced, and the courts were generally on the side of Hitler. They were center-right. They were left over from the previous administration under the Kaiser. So this is why it's dangerous. One thing I do find curious is, why have we never had someone turn up on politics and say, we're going to hunt down the racists? We're going to get rid of the racists. Why has that never been brought up? You'll see them talk about the socialists. You'll see them talk. No one could defend that. We're going to hunt down the racists. We're going to find them and we're going to jail them. We're going to seek them out and get rid of them. Don't ever hear that in politics. And yet that's probably one of the more pressing things that we've got to deal with. However, on another note, unless anyone wants to bring up anything about that, SuperTan, you were going to bring up this other... This is nuts.
Yeah, I only found out about it late last night, and I think it's just a really small column by Mark Townsend. I can't. I've got a clipping from the paper, but loads of asylum-seeking children are being kidnapped by traffickers from hotels on the south coast. Since it all started, there's been about 600 unaccompanied children. So these are children without family that have just come across, maybe their parents or family members died in the crossing, vulnerable kids. They're being picked up outside the hotels and taken away, and no one knows where they are. So at the moment, there's 136 reported missing, and they're just the ones that are reported missing, with 79 still unaccounted for at the moment. And it was a whistleblower from Mighty who brought this up. The police had warned the Home Office that this was going to happen. It's been ignored, and it's still happening, and they're refusing to acknowledge that it's happening. And I think Yvette Cooper's one of the few people that have actually spoken out and brought attention to this. But Labour have got their hands full at the moment, haven't they, with constantly reporting Johnson to the Parliamentary Standards Committee and etc. So essentially, kids are being abducted by traffickers and taken away, and nobody's doing anything about it.
Wow. Well, I would say to everyone here, if you can, write to your MP and inform them.
Or look out in the news for the next couple of days and see whether or not this is talked about, because I can guarantee you it will not be talked about.
No, it won't. Well, yeah.
So it'll be left to us to talk about on our bloody TikToks, won't it? As usual. But yeah, that is the consequence, like one of the consequences of dehumanizing these people, because that they've created a culture in which these people don't matter. So those kids don't matter. They're not like your kids. They're not like your blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids. These kids don't have value. They're unaccompanied, and now they're God, I hate to think what's happening to those kids.
It's disgraceful, isn't it? And yet it's not shocking.
We've
actually gone to that stage where stuff like this, like, could you imagine 10 years ago under the Blair administration if this had come out? This would be one of the biggest stories of the year.
2 Jags,
allowing kids to be kidnapped.
Yeah, but no, having 2 Jags was a nightmare back then, or calling a bigot a bigot. That was like a real crime. But it shows like how skewed the media is, and that is one of the things, no wonder they ditched Leveson too, because, how would they get away with their...
well, didn't it?
Cocaine and strippers.
One of the problems that we have when it comes to the proliferation of right-wing media and media that exists to sell itself is that stories like that go under the eaves because no one, and when I'm going to say this now and I don't mean it in that way, but no one cares. We should care. But when it comes to having a state-sponsored media, the fact that we have a state-sponsored media who literally last night and today, as we've been speaking about, suffers from a huge amount of political bias, it means that we're too busy talking about how Boris Johnson's an absolute moron who's taking money from the public to do God knows what. Instead of talking about stories like this, there are missing children. And I didn't even know about it. And all I do all day is sit and consume politics in between whatever else it is I'm doing in one of my 2 jobs. How bad is it that is the state of affairs in the UK, that we don't even know about a crisis with missing children?
Well, you have to pick up on it just at random, possibly on Twitter. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I just happened across it on Twitter, and my blood went cold. Like, I was like, how embarrassing, and how ashamed I felt to be British with this happening. Like, I just get that feeling so often. It's like all the decent people in this country feel just ashamed, I think, of where we've got to, where that is happening, and nobody's doing.
I think there's a level of deniability with the public as well. I think there's a part of the public that don't want to believe that a lot of this stuff is going on. And it's probably part of the public that are just like well up for it. They're just like, well, that'll be another deterrent for migrants. The corruption, it's always there. It's whatever who's in power, they're all corrupt. And you're just like, there's a lack of almost apathy, racism, far right. They're like, yeah, we're well up for authoritarian systems. And unfortunately, it's quite a significant number. And, we could link that back to education. We could link that back to...
We can. I think the other thing as well, though, is to always keep your eye on the prize, because, I said, like, I get told all the time to, like, focus on the right stuff. What is the right stuff when they commit crimes? Just focus on all the stuff that they're doing. But if you look at... Braverman casts a really long shadow. When she was the Attorney General, I know, obviously we don't have like paperwork that said we know the government's committing lots of crimes, but it was very, very clear to Braverman that the government was breaching the law in a lot of ways. So she decided to create new legislation that meant that it was harder to directly tell the government they were breaking the law. And instead they brought in a percentages scheme so that now it's like, oh, you're 60% likely to be breaking the law, which gives the government plausible deniability to continue breaking the law, because instead of being told you are in breach of the law, they're told you're 60 to 70% likely to be breaking the law. So now the government can continue to do it knowingly, and when it's like you've broken the law, we're taking you to the ECHR or something, they can go, well, according to this chart, we were only 30% likely, but still, that's more than we were solidly told. It's lowering the bar into the dirt. Yeah, that's how the government now, certain different branches of the government, instead of being told we've looked and you're likely to be breaching the law, they're given a percentile of how likely they are to have broken the law, which is just a way to directly shove in your face that you can have plausible deniability.
God,
I wasn't directly told I was breaching the law.
In his grave, man. He's like, I think, like our friend Aid said, like Profumo was like, if he'd been around now, he'd have probably chucked in a couple of murders and a couple of extra sex scandals in if he knew that he'd just get away with everything that he did that was illegal.
Honestly.
What's the take in Italy on all of this, Max? I know you're obviously following the UK news. Is the Italian news paying any attention to us, or are they just like
not
their
really?
Own problems?
Just whenever Boris Johnson appears, people talk a little bit about Boris Johnson. Oh, look, it's the guy with the weird hair again. But that's about it.
Wow.
And just the thing about Brexit is that the Brexiteers say that the EU want us back, or that the EU is trying to bring Britain back into the fold, but in Europe, there's very little talk about Brexit or about what's happening in the UK.
You're doing all right. That's why you're doing fine.
But we have a massively overinflated sense of ego. We think that the EU sat there like a tissue, damp its face, like going, "Oh, please come back," and the EU's like, "I'm fine, girl, carry on doing what you're doing." But like, in a way, I'm kind of glad that it's like indifference, because I just think, like, I used to think like they must get to like the end of the news in France, and they'd be like, and now in Philemon, over to England Live, because we're just so embarrassing. Honestly, I just think if I'd actually done what I wanted to do and moved over to Greece and started working in Greek media, I would make a point to just be like, let's check in on my homeland, and just like burning wasteland.
Well, France are doing a pretty good job. I mean, France know how to protest and strike, don't they? Did you see that footage of them with like an actual barbecue set up on the picket?
Yeah.
Like, legend, man. Like, I think I just wish that the French would adopt me. I would just defect instantly to France in an instant. I wouldn't even have to think about it. If someone offered me a home and a passport, I'd be like, phew, gone. Like, they are legends. They fight. They take direct action and fight for their rights, and they win. Meanwhile,
here we've been subdued.
Gobble up the nonsense. It's it's insane. Mind you, the polling's looking pretty interesting, isn't it?
For,
what was it?
Oh yes.
For Labour.
50% for Labour.
Jacob Rees-Mogg is in very serious trouble, I think.
Brilliant.
I want to go to his constituency in Vox Pop. I'm going to have to do that.
You're going to go to his constituency?
Go down there and do
what?
Vox Pop, I think it's
called. I thought you said
beatbox. I'm talented in many ways.
Excuse me, Jacob Rees-Mogg.
Honestly, drop a drill rap on the prick. I would love to just chuck a stick in the spokes of his penny farthing as you went past. I'd love to.
I just like, do you reckon, I bet even his nanny's probably going to vote against him at this point. I'm sorry, Jacob, it's for the best of the country.
Still attached to her teat, isn't it? Too far. I'm sorry, Max. I'm sorry. I've broken him.
I think, Davey, you made some horrible comment about his nanny and the door and the teat last time you were on.
That was Tan. That was Tan.
No, it was not me. It was Davey.
It was not me.
That's a quote from a League of Gentlemen. Like, I blame League of Gentlemen.
Which is, yeah, that was an excellent quote. That was Brexit Britain. I can't. No trouble here.
Post-apocalyptic nightmare.
Yeah.
It's like where the wind blows.
You lied to me, Edward.
There is a
You lied to me, Edward. There is a Good Friday agreement.
I guess that this all comes back down to the brain drain. The government haven't figured this one out. If Britain's rubbish, if inflation is high, people will leave. And if Italy's having a boom, and by the way, you can get a nomad visa if you work online. If you earn 800 a year, you can move to Portugal. They'll take you on a nomad visa if you're working online. So
if you earn how much?
800. Are you writing this down?
No.
He's googling it. Like,
So we've got we've got so much to talk about, and there's so little time.
No.
Russian interference. That's kicking around in the background again. If anyone's not up to date, Caroline Lucas, Ben Bradshaw, and Liam, I think from the Lib Dems, Liam Bryn, I think it might be. They're taking the government to court. Now they've gone up to the High Courts. And the High Courts threw it out and said they haven't breached. Now you might go, well, what have they breached? So essentially, the Russia report was made. Dominic Grieve tried to get it out just before the election, saying this is really serious. Boris Johnson denied at least twice on camera, one in question time and one at a campaign rally, that there was no interference, none. So he's had that report on his desk for 3 months, and he came out during the campaign, no interference. Afterwards, about 50 to 30 MPs had to go and pressurize him into releasing the document, which he then did in July. So he's had from October to July to release it, and he wouldn't until he got pressurized. He
time frame's
releases
normally
it.
much shorter, isn't it, than that? You've got to
What's
do it.
that?
Oh yeah.
You've got to normally do that in a certain time frame, or it's generally done within, like, isn't it 2 weeks? And it took.
Yeah, because he claimed security reasons, but Dominic Grieve had to come out in Parliament and go, "There's no. I'm on the committee. We've already done that. You just have to read it and then release it. That's all you got to do." And of course, during the campaign, he said he read it, and then he denied interference. The report comes out, and it said there was interference in the Scottish referendum. We don't know about any other interference because no one's checked, except if you go and read the US Russia report, if you go and read the Mueller report, and if you go and read any of the think tanks that have researched it, like Trojan Horse, or even BuzzFeed, which was referenced in the UK report, you could see there's been loads. So basically what we could tell is that a load of Russians who are financed and backed by Putin come over to the UK, get themselves passports, and then start influencing the political system. You can get a golden visa. You can do that in about 5 years if you're rich enough, millions of pounds and expensive lawyers. And then you start buying property and you start funding into the Tory party. Turns out, according to the Sky report, they've taken 2.5 million from these Russian oligarchs. And that's what I've found so far. I've just discovered there's another company that's a bit dodgy that I'm going to research and see if they've been donating. And you're starting to go, right, so the report shows there's interference and then you didn't do anything. Now we're seeing that there's loads of money being pumped into your party that refuses to investigate. Caroline Lucas, Liam, and Ben Bradshaw have now gone to the High Court, and the High Court throughout. They've now gone to the ECHR. And the ECHR is just taken to the second stage. Now, you might go, well, these Russian oligarchs, they can't be influenced by Putin, can they? We've had 14 assassinations that are Russian-led. And yesterday, weirdly enough, one of them, and you're going to love this story, and I promise I'm going to throw it all over to you shortly. The guy was found inside a zip bag with the padlock on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
And he's dead. And the key in the inside of the bag. And there were no fingerprints in the bathroom or around the bath. None. So it'd been cleaned. The police said it was suicide. The only reason that this is not now changed is, I believe, a police investigator attempted 300 times to get himself into the bag and lock it from the inside.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And have the key on the inside. In order to and he couldn't do it.
Like a reverse Houdini, isn't it? Like, basically.
Yeah, I think Houdini no, I don't think Houdini could do it. I'm not going to defend it. Basically, the Russians have Putin has literally been capping anyone that goes against him in the UK. And according to the interference report, he can do that. He could just turn up and there's nothing he can do. And don't forget, it's not just capped Russians. He's dumped radioactive waste, which not even ISIS or the Taliban have done, across London and Salisbury.
Yeah.
And he's killed British citizens. And we just, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, David Cameron, the lot of them have done nothing. They just sit there and go.
Yeah.
Well, why would you go against someone who's directly monetarily helping you?
And
that's the frightening fact of it.
So I promise I'm going to stop talking about it. Obviously, you can tell I'm quite passionate about this. We literally burn an effigy of a traitor every year. Every freaking year, we burn a traitor. And he didn't succeed.
Oh, no, sorry.
He didn't succeed. He didn't do anything. and we burn him. This lot have allowed do whatever you want. And, there's Lebedev, who owns The Independent. He's Lord of Siberia. We're told there's no connection. You can only be Lord of Siberia with Putin's permission. And he's defended the invasion of the Crimea. But not only did he defend it, he defended it verbatim in the same way, in the exact same words as Vladimir Putin has defended it and his foreign minister. So you're like, right, you're literally reading the same words for the same transcript. So I'm gonna throw it over to you guys on your thoughts on this. Max, what are your thoughts on Russian interference?
Well, my favorite one is how wonderful a tennis player Boris Johnson is. That one of the ex-ministers of Putin, his wife paid over £100,000 to play tennis with Boris Johnson.
Lyubov Shanurkin.
Yeah, you could have played tennis with anyone, but why not Boris Johnson? He's probably one of the greatest. How many Grand Slams has he won over the years?
Brilliant at running, away from
and rugby
and sex partners. Yeah, that's exactly. And since the war in Ukraine happened and the sanctions started, the Tories have taken, this was in June 2021, by the way, the Tories had taken over 62,000 from Russia-linked donors. And another thing about Lyubov, who you were just talking about, because I think I did this in a part of this in a video. She has, she donates excessive sums. And she donated a load of money at their last ball so she could have dinner with the current and former prime ministers. And she was having weekly meetings with our prime minister and senior ministers. So it's not just her playing tennis, it's her literally having weekly meetings. And she's the wife of Putin's ex-defense minister. I mean, and sanctions have been applied to Russia. Like, sanctions have been applied broadly, apart from obviously Rishi Sunak's wife's business, which Infosys, which continued to trade in Russia despite the war. But yeah, you look at these excessive sums of money. The fact that Johnson skirted his security detail to party with a KGB officer and his son, Lebedev. They're up to their balls in it. Like, it's clear. And I don't know if they're kind of like still doing it because they're worried they're going to get like pushed out of a hospital window, or if they're just really enjoying all the money and the parties and the sex workers, allegedly. I don't know.
That's a bunga bunga party, which is apparently what Boris attended. That's the Italian slang.
We've heard all about
Perugia, yeah.
Which apparently is what the Russians work in. Apparently, Russians. I've heard CIA agents claim Russia and Israel still operate like that.
Isn't that how you get the bribes? Isn't it? It's how you get leverage over people. You let them loose.
That's what Chris Steele claimed with Trump. He was ex-MI6 and said that's what Putin did with Trump. He got him into the tower, videoed it, and then had leverage. Davey, what are your thoughts on all of this?
It's what a tangled web we've allowed to be weaved is the thing for me. There's just like objective evidence out there that our government is a bad faith actor. And we're not just talking about the fact that they overlook our basic human rights and the fact that they're making it harder to live here. But when it comes to collusion with Russia and things like that, there is actual proof out there. I read the entire Russia report, and there's bits that are still redacted that I would literally give all my teeth to read. But the fact that that report comes down on the side of we just don't know how much, is lazy to me. Like you said, if you read the other reports, if you read the reports that came out in America and certain other parts of Europe, you can see that they dug extensively to find out just how much Russian interference there was. So the question for me is, why didn't we? That report concludes that there was Russian interference, but it doesn't state how much. And the question to me is, what are we doing to find out the extent then? Because the end of the report can't be, yeah, we looked and there was, but we don't know. It's on to the next bit, please. So is there something being done, or are we allowing a government to sit there and capitulate and go, there was interference, but it'll make us look bad or worse, so we're just not going to do anything about it? And if that's the case, like you said earlier, pass me some dry kindling and an effigy of all of these pricks that we've allowed to maintain power for 13 years.
Well, it's a party, but it wasn't a party, innit? It's like, it's deliberate. It's deliberate. They don't want people to go snooping around this. They don't want people to talk about it. Simple as that, really. I mean, it benefits them enormously. So why would they?
So Swansea and Edinburgh came out with a report and claimed that Russia used 150,000 bots, both in the Trump election and in the Brexit election.
Yep.
And that means they're out tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming. I don't think you can Instagram. I don't think they had the tech to do the pictures, but they could tweet. What are your thoughts on the influence? Do you think that could? Do you think 150,000 bots could influence an election?
Yeah, of course it can. Look at like me and Tanner are a product of social media. We've come up because we made videos going, God, the Tories are dickheads, aren't they? And thousands of people agreed. So all you need is to have someone that says the nasty stuff that you kind of agree with because you've been reading the Daily Mail, etc., for that long. And it doesn't matter what else they come out with. As long as they come out with the core points that you agree with, you're just going to keep leaning towards those people. You've seen that it's so easy to watch people be radicalized in real time. I've watched people go down the sinkhole of anti-vaccination stuff. And it's like, even when you talk facts to these people, they'll be like, oh, so you're saying that adverse reactions don't happen? I'm like, of course they do. It's been well known since vaccines were created that they will give you an adverse reaction. They're like, oh, well, vaccines are bad. And I'm like, okay, but what about all the lives they've saved? And then you just get nothing back. It's the same thing, but on multiple levels with governance. That's what we're watching in real time. People will see photos of empty shelves, or they'll see like people queuing up for miles for food banks, and they'll be like, "This is what it would have been like under Jeremy Corbyn." And I'm like, "It's what it's like now under the Conservatives."
Don't get me wrong.
Madness.
Yeah, but you're right about with great power comes great responsibility. Essentially, I mean, we all have kind of reasonably large platforms, but that's why I'm so careful to fact check and make sure that what I'm putting out is right. And if I get something wrong, like even on Twitter, I'll go, oh shit, I was duped, sorry, because I don't want to be like them. But it shouldn't fall upon people that have just been sitting there open-mouthed in shock and horror to have to pick up their phone or whatever and make a video about this. Our media should be reporting this. People are not getting given the information, are they? And so how can people make an informed democratic choice if they're not given access to the facts? Can't happen.
I'm going to be cheeky and plug my film, which I've done on the topic. But I show that to people, and a lot of people just go, oh, people don't care. People don't care. And I always find it interesting that the Conservative Party hate every single foreigner on the planet, apart from the Russians, who they'll defend. Isn't that funny? They'll hit every single group, but in Parliament, when Russia comes up, don't attack the Russian population. Literally, like, that's Boris. Max, sorry, you got to say something.
No, just I wanted to say, just as you were saying about the influence of social media and how it can be manipulated. There was a wonderful tweet, I shared it around some weeks ago, excuse me, when it came to the strikes. There was this tweet that was repeated by a whole load of different accounts, and it was, cards on the table, I earn £40,000 a year, I'm a train driver, I'm this, and I don't need a food bank, and all of this. And you could see how it was literally copied and pasted by a whole load of accounts. And that's influencing people's mind, because then people look at it on Twitter and go, oh, look, there are train drivers who are earning £40,000 a year, they don't need food banks. And then the problem is, how do we get to the source of that? Who is actually spreading that? Is it the Tories? Is it, cooperation with, foreign bots? I don't know if it's Russian bots, but it could be. Who's behind that? What is their goal? And if the goal is obviously to influence people, to convince people that those on strike have no legitimate reason to be striking. And who does that benefit? It benefits the right wing, because they don't want people to.
If you do find out, police aren't going to do anything, are they? I mean, let's face it. I mean, what would it take for a politician to actually get arrested now?
But this is the thing, though, as well. It's not just about finding out who's doing it, because I know that this will sound crazy, but bear with me. It doesn't matter who's doing it. If it's not you, say it's not me. If the Tories came out and were like, hang on, we don't need to do this because it's like, that's nonsense, that's not us. that like people shouldn't be doing that because that's unfair. We'll prove to you why our policies are better. If the Tories aren't doing that, it doesn't matter if they're doing it or not. It matters that it's being done and they are not calling accountability to it. And that's my issue with the Tories, is that they will allow these things to happen. Let's say it is the Tories doing it. That's disgusting. But if it's not them doing it and the Tories aren't saying, this is garbage, don't listen to this, here's some stuff about why we're doing what we're doing, I would be like, I hate you guys, but at least you're being honest with your governance. But they don't even do that. There's not even the barest level of accountability and acceptance.
Well, no, they wouldn't.
They don't back their own policies.
No, they don't. And their last manifesto is just burning in a ditch somewhere at the moment. But they and also but of course they wouldn't, because look at the ads from the last general election. Look at the truthfulness of the ads. It was like upper 90% of Tory ads were untruthful, full of lies. They were even sending out their doorsteppers with pamphlets of lies to tell people, whereas Labour, the other parties, no lies in their manifesto, in their what they call pamphlets, or in their ads, their election ads, no lies. So,
I'll just, like, because I'm aware of the time and everything. There's two things. You've just mentioned how they're attacking all the unions, the NHS. They're like literally saying, "Oh, you shouldn't be on strike. We're going to pass legislation to deal with you." I've just twigged they're doing more anti-legislation against British citizens, and this is why they're going to the ECHR, than they are against the Russians. Because what Caroline Lucas, Ben Bradshaw, and Liam are saying, we've had the report, and you've passed no legislation to deal with this money coming into London. You've done no legislation to deal with that. They've done more to attack their own citizens than to deal with Putin. How about that? And this is why I keep saying we burn an effigy every year of a traitor. That would be my definition of a traitor.
Absolutely.
That would be my definition. You do more to damage your own citizens who pay taxes and put you in power than you do to deal with Putin.
The UK is currently on a timer.
I'm very much aware of the time. We've only got 2 minutes left. That flew by.
And we've not even started.
No.
Like, I mean, we've got a bloody scroll of things, like a bloody Leonard Cohen song of lists. Like,
have you been in Jacob Rees-Mogg's pockets again, pulling out his scroll?
Pulling out his diary, yeah.
Would anyone like a final note on what they want to say before we disappear? Max?
Can we just mention something very quickly about with the police officer in the Met? Or what the hell is going to happen with that?
Nothing, because it's, you know, the only people they serve and protect are white straight men. So the rest of us are just thrown to the dogs. They don't give a fuck about us. The whole system's corrupt. It's rotten to the core. It needs burning down. That's as concise as
we'll end on that note.
No, also, Milan, will you adopt me?
I'll put in a word for you.
My favourite, I love Italian food, honestly. I just want to go there and just eat Mediterranean food and live out my life in beautiful surroundings and peace.
Just one thing, Alex in the chat, where's the lava lamp?
Oh shit! Yeah, where is your...
I saw it at the start.
Studio 54 style.
Camera, it'll be back. At least you got it.
I like to
It is now currently...
Is this you setting up for your bunga bunga pie later?
No, look at the background. He's got the cushions set out and everything. Where's your button?
I think I didn't notice.
I'll work something out. It'll be back.
Is Elizabeth Oakeshott turning up?
She can't get a fringe through the door.
Yeah, her hair's too big to fit in.
As the lava lamp hasn't been on, can we all hail the lava lamp, please?
Oh, hail.
All hail. All hail.
Oh dear
Thank
God.
you so much, guys, for turning up today. Thanks for your cooperation and your collaboration.
Cooperation.
We appreciate your anger.
Oh, it never ends.
Bye, everyone.
If we could harness it as in fuel.
Oh shit! Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.